The message from my mother was ice cold. We changed all the locks. You don't have a home anymore. Let's see how brave you are now. For a moment my thumb hovered above the screen. I read it 3 times, letting the words sink in. My jaw clenched, but I didn't reply. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I simply smiled, because they didn't realize that home wasn't theirs to take. What happened next destroyed their entire world, and I don't regret a single second of it. If you've ever been used by your own family and then thrown away like garbage, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video if you believe in turning the tables on people who underestimate you, because this story will show you exactly what happens when family greed meets legal revenge. Trust me, the ending will leave you speechless. My name is Jessica Chin and I'm 28 years old. I grew up in a 2-story colonial house in Portland, Oregon with my parents David and Linda and my younger sister Amanda. For most of my life I thought we were a normal, loving family. I couldn't have been more wrong. The exploitation started when I was 14. While Amanda got to focus on her studies, join after-school activities and hang out with friends, I became my father's unpaid construction worker. Every weekend, every school break, every spare moment was consumed by manual labor. Jessica, grab the ladder. Dad would bark from the garage. We're fixing the gutters today. Or, Jessica, the fence needs painting. Jessica, the roof has loose shingles. My hands were always cut from tools and rough materials. My back ached from hauling equipment across our 3-acre property. While other teens went to movies or dances, I was mowing endless stretches of lawn, digging fence post holes and scraping paint off siding. When I complained, Dad would just laugh and ruffle my hair. You're tougher than any son I could have asked for, kiddo. This is building character. My mother would smile and nod approvingly. Family helps family, Jessica. Besides, you're so much better at this than Amanda. She's delicate. Delicate. Their code word for favored. I believed them. At 14, 15, 16, you trust your parents. I thought the labor meant they were teaching me responsibility. I thought their praise meant I was valued. But I was being conditioned, trained to see my worth only in what I could provide. As soon as I started earning money, the financial requests began. Jessica, honey, could you help with the electric bill? The mortgage payment is due and your dad's commission was lower than expected. You don't mind chipping in, do you? Of course I minded. But by then saying no felt like betrayal. So I paid. Electric bills. Gas bills. Water bills. Mortgage payments. All while telling myself I was a good daughter helping during temporary rough patches. But really, I was subsidizing their lifestyle, while they saved their money for Amanda. He got a brand new car at 16. I bought myself a used Honda. She had her full college tuition paid at a private school. I worked full-time, took out loans and studied business at community college at night. She got vacations and praise. I got more chores and more bills. And still I told myself it was fine. That being the reliable one made me valuable. The shift started a year ago. Conversations that went silent when I entered a room. Glances between my parents I couldn't interpret. My name missing from future plans. Then one night last March I came home from my accounting job and froze outside the kitchen door. The deed is in our names only, my mother whispered. Jessica doesn't realize all her contributions were just gifts. Voluntary support. My father chuckled, cold and smug. Classic Jessica. All heart, no business sense. Then Amanda's voice cut in. But, what if she expects something when we sell? Expect what? Mom scoffed. She never asked for ownership. Legally, she has no claim to anything. I pressed against the wall, my pulse hammering. They weren't just excluding me. They were mocking me. Planning to cut me out entirely after years of my money and labor. That's when I knew I wasn't family to them. I was a tool. I didn't confront them. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching property law. For 6 months, I quietly gathered evidence. Every bank transfer I'd made for their mortgage. Every receipt for home improvement supplies. Every contractor payment I'd covered. Every utility bill I'd paid. My father's sloppy record-keeping became my weapon. He thought I'd never challenge him. He was wrong. I found $85,000 in direct contributions, not counting years of unpaid labor that any contractor would have charged thousands for. 3 attorneys confirmed it. I had a strong case for equitable ownership. All I had to do was wait. And then one September night, they made their move. I had just finished another brutal day at work during our busy season when my phone lit up with a message from my mother. We changed all the locks. You don't have a home anymore. Let's see how brave you are now. Haha. That cruel little haha at the end made something crystallize inside me. This wasn't just about money or property anymore. This was about years of manipulation, exploitation, and now outright cruelty. They thought they were locking me out. What they had actually done was hand me the final piece of evidence I needed to prove their malicious intent. The next morning at 7 a.m. I called my attorney. "File the petition," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. He didn't need clarification. We'd been preparing for this moment for months. 2 days later, my parents' attorney called my phone in a panic. "Miss Jin, we have a serious problem here. We need to discuss this immediately." Of course they had a problem. Their iron cage of control now had cracks and I had widened them into a fracture. But I didn't call back right away. I wanted them to sweat. To realize that the daughter they had used and dismissed for years now understood exactly how power worked. The confrontation came the following week in a sterile mediation room downtown. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in harsh, unforgiving clarity. A long table separated my legal team on one side and theirs on the other. They entered first. My father red-faced and blustering, my mother trying to project superiority, and Amanda looking confused and slightly terrified. For the first time in months I was in the same room with all three of them. And I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No love. Just cold, professional focus. I didn't look at them. Instead, I placed a thick manila folder on the table and slid it forward. "What's this?" my father demanded, his voice full of his usual dismissive authority. My attorney opened the folder slowly, deliberately. Documentation of my client's financial contributions to the property in question, as well as evidence of labor and materials provided over a 14-year period. Inside were copies of every bank statement, every receipt, every record I had gathered. $47,000 in direct mortgage payments. $23,000 in home improvements and repairs. Utility payments during their so-called emergencies. Contractor invoices I had covered when they couldn't afford repairs. But the most damning evidence was a series of texts and emails. Messages where they begged for help, promised it was temporary, and assured me they would make it up to me. My father flipped through the papers, his smirk collapsing with each page. My mother tried to interrupt, but her voice caught in her throat as the evidence mounted. Amanda sat frozen, finally realizing she wasn't part of a loving family. She was just a beneficiary of their scheme to exploit me. "This is ridiculous," my father sputtered. "Those were gifts. Family helping family. Jessica never asked for any formal arrangement." My attorney's response was sharp and calm. "Mr. Chin, these documents show a pattern of solicited contributions under the representation that they were temporary. We also have evidence you and your wife concealed your true financial situation while accepting these payments." He pulled out subpoenaed bank records showing that during those supposed hardship years, my parents had substantial savings and investments. And the text message your wife sent, explicitly threatening to make my client homeless, demonstrates malicious intent to deprive her of the benefits of her contributions. The silence was suffocating. Their fortress, their kingdom, their weapon against me, the house, was slipping out of their control. "Jessica, honey," my mother finally stammered, her voice trembling, "this is all a misunderstanding. We never meant. You never meant for me to document everything?" I cut in, my voice calm. "You never meant for me to understand property law? You never meant for me to realize I'd been subsidizing your lifestyle for years while you saved everything for Amanda?" My father turned purple. "After everything we did for you, after raising you, housing you, after using me as unpaid labor for 14 years, I interrupted again. After taking $85,000 of my money under false pretenses. After planning to sell the house I maintained without giving me a cent of the proceeds." My attorney laid it out cleanly. "My client is not seeking repayment. She is seeking her rightful ownership stake. Based on the contributions, we request a 50% ownership interest." The room erupted. My father shouted about ungrateful children and legal extortion. My mother burst into tears. Amanda sat in silence, calculating her shrinking inheritance. But I was calm. Their manipulation no longer touched me. 6 weeks later, the judge signed the order. 50% legal ownership. Not because my family had chosen to include me, but because the law had recognized what they tried to deny. The first thing I did wasn't move back in. That house was poisoned by too many memories. And besides, they had made it clear I wasn't welcome. Instead, I forced the sale. As co-owner, I had the right to demand liquidation. The house sold for $680,000. My share, $340,000 after fees and taxes. The best part? My parents had planned to use the full sale for their retirement. Instead, they were left with half, barely enough for a modest condo. Their dream retirement evaporated overnight. With my share, I bought a beautiful townhouse across town. Smaller than the family home, but entirely mine. Every bill, every improvement. My choice, my freedom. They still try to contact me sometimes. My father sends guilt-filled emails. My mother leaves voicemails dripping with fake remorse. Amanda plays mediator, pretending she never knew. I don't respond. Because when they changed those locks, they thought they'd taken my security and my future. What they really did was give me the evidence to take back what was mine. They wanted me homeless. Instead, they lost their home, and their retirement. Now, when I sit in my living room sipping coffee in the silence of my own space, I smile. I smile because the locks they changed don't matter. I have my own locks now. I smile because the house they tried to keep is gone and half the money is mine. I smile because their betrayal gave me my freedom. Sometimes the people who think they know you best are the ones who underestimate you most. They assume you'll always be compliant, easy to control. But people grow. People learn. And sometimes, people fight back.